Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. Leveling has been updated for patch 9.15 and I wanted to get a fresh new character. Even though I have one of every class up already, I wanted to do an Alliance Rogue and test out some of the 9.15 features. Figure out which leveling method is currently the fastest and the best, and this is my video from my findings. Leveling in 9.15 has been improved. The speed is a little faster, but the convenience is the biggest improvement. The quality of life stuff, being able to work on some of the endgame grinds while you're questing, is probably the biggest draw. So let's take a look at the leveling in 9.15 so far. Before that, most of you guys watching these videos are not subscribed, and if you're watching this video, you might as well subscribe, hit the bell as well, especially if you want to see videos like these where we try to take a look at the fastest leveling methods, potential guides, and even 9.2 updates in the future. So first, before we dive into leveling, 9.15 did add an opportunity for you to upgrade your heirloom gear to Shadowlands quality. That means this gear will scale up until level 59. I would say that heirloom gear isn't really a requirement. It does make leveling slightly more convenient, but in terms of faster, your experience will vary. Since heirloom gear no longer has any kind of XP bonuses, instead it only has a bonus for rested XP, but also the fact that the gear scales with you, it definitely was a nice feature to take advantage of. While I'm questing out in the open world, or spamming dungeons, or doing Tourgas, or any of the other leveling activities, I don't have to worry about my gear. But also, if you're someone who doesn't really get to play the game that often, or someone who likes to level their characters in bursts, not like a single 10-hour session from 50 to 60, then the rested bonus experience bonuses that come with the tier set of the heirloom gear is going to be extra beneficial for you. Another quality of life stuff is going to be the maw skip. Definitely utilize this, don't do the maw scenario again. There's a good chance you've done it 8 times at the very least on your alt characters, you don't need to do it more. You will lose out on the experience inside of the maw, but a lot of that experience can be made up in Shadowlands anyway. As per usual, we'll be questing with the Fate system, and also utilizing some of the other bonus objectives we have that have been added in 9.15. You still have the quest to fill up a bar over in Bastion, Maldraxxus, Revendreth, as well as Ardenweald, but now you have 2 bonus objectives that can be done once a day. One of them is a Tourgas quest, the other is a PvP daily quest. The PvP quest is a daily win from a battleground that offers quite a bit of XP and also item level gear that's usually going to be an upgrade for your character. The Tourgas quest is very similar. You dive into Tourgas, do a single run of one of the different corridors, and after you finish it, you also get a bulk of XP. Both of these daily quests also give renown, which is fantastic as a 2 birds with 1 stone type of situation. But I also like the idea that they added some daily quests that you can do. Again, if you're someone who plays the game casually or doesn't grind for long hours, having a login bonus in order to get a little bit of XP for that alt character is a nice combo. First thing I wanted to explore is how efficient is Tourgas questing. I've got to experience it during the PTR, but I wanted to really test out the live version of Tourgas. When questing through Tourgas, XP is awarded in a variety of different ways. Killing mobs gives you a little bit of experience, but there's also a lot of mobs throughout the run, so it all accumulates pretty quickly. Freeing souls from Tourgas is also going to give you quite a bit more, 1,000 experience scaling upwards as you level higher. Helping anybody trapped in Tourgas or solving some of the different puzzles in Tourgas awards you quite a bit of extra XP. And slaying the final boss awards you with about 30,000 experience scaling upwards as you get higher in levels. To optimize Tourgas to see if it might be the fastest leveling method, I was able to down it to about between 3 and 4 minutes on average of a Tourgas run. Depending on the class and the powers that you get from Tourgas, it could be way faster. Having a class with stealth also was very advantageous, as I was able to skip to the door bosses to move on to the next floor and the next floor quite quickly. But also, on the way, I was able to stop by and rescue as many souls and whatever side objectives that were on the way that didn't leave me fighting enemies for a long period of time. Trying to optimize Tourgas in such a way allowed me to get about 15% experience of my experience bar every 4 minutes, which you can just double up back to back to back in Tourgas, which not only earns you experience but also soul ash, which you can use to craft a legendary once you hit max level, as well as random bouts of renown, which can also be useful for the endgame content. Moving on from Tourgas, I tried some of the world content since that got changed a bit. First of all, whenever you're trying to finish any of the zones, like you fill up the bar in Bastion for example, any of the activities you do inside of Bastion now contribute more towards filling up that bar. So filling out that bar is going to be a lot quicker. And just like in patch 9.1, when you turn in the quest that completes that zone, that's about roughly 25% of an experience scaling with your level. So if you were to finish out all the bars for all the zones, hit level 59, fly around, turn those quests in, that'll be a free level just from turn-ins. So they made that process even easier by allowing you to fill the bar quicker. Besides that, 915 buffed world bonus objectives, where they give a decent amount of XP but can also be finished way quicker. They also have a chance to reward renown. I think majority of them have rewarded me renown, maybe one or two that haven't, which is a huge convenience value for grinding renown while you're questing. But besides that, the actual world objectives and fake questing out in the open world, like side objectives, side quests, and world quests, none of that really changed or gotten faster. Then of course, I wanted to try dungeons, since before 915, dungeon spamming was the fastest way to level our characters. It took a bit of time if you were a DPS, but as a tank or a healer, spamming groups and blasting through dungeons within 8 minutes was not uncommon. Dungeon spamming is still very efficient to this day, as long as you have a decent group of players, even players that are not super geared, even though not super experienced in dungeons, the amount of XP you earn out of it is still pretty good. Plus, if you dungeon grind right now, there's a pretty big bonus of many high level players with max level gear diving into normal dungeons and spamming them out. Everybody's looking for ways to farm up renown, and normal dungeons is probably the fastest way of doing it. So right now, currently in 915, this early, we have a lot of max level players with some amazing gear blasting through bosses and tanking even in DPS roles. So take advantage of it, spam some dungeons. There's a good chance you'll see some of those players carrying your whole groups to victory in just a matter of minutes. In patch 915, Blizzard added a way for you to queue island expeditions from Battle for Azeroth as a solo player. Some of you guys said during PTR, players were actually able to get a decent amount of experience, and I want to see if that made it towards live in 915. I gotta say, it was actually pretty difficult content to do as a level 57 rogue character. Without a legendary and just heirloom gear, a lot of the mobs as well as the enemy player mobs, quote unquote, like the opposite faction that is supposed to act like players but are not really players, they're just all NPCs fighting against you, all of it proved to be quite a bit challenging and everything hit harder than I expected. But I was able to finish it eventually, and I got relatively no experience from it. So if you want to do some islands, you should do it as a max level character with all the best endgame gear. But until then, ignore that, that is not a viable leveling strategy. With Blizzard adding a PvP daily objective for players to earn a win from a battleground, get a bit of experience, gear, as well as renown, I wanted to see if Battlegrounds could maybe be potentially decent. For some BGs, you win a bunch, for others, you lose a bunch, and the amount of experience you gain for the time commitment compared to Tourgas as well as dungeons, while it's a decent side activity for you to do if you want to earn some honor before you hit max level, I don't think it is the fastest leveling option currently. So then the question is Tourgas or dungeons the fastest method? After testing them both out, there's advantages and disadvantages, but I think Tourgas and dungeons might actually be the two fastest methods. Tourgas took me about 4 minutes to squeeze out 15% of experience. It can be a little bit longer, but also can be a little bit more experience depending on how much time I invest inside of it. Dungeons can be as fast as 8 minutes, but as long as like 30, depending on the group, depending on the tanks, depending on how the runs go. But generally net out about 45% of experience. Between the two, I found dungeons quite relaxing, because as a DPS I can just queue for a dungeon while doing a lot of the world objectives. I can fly around and do all the bonus objectives, collecting experience, as well as the much needed renown in order to catch my character up before they even hit max level. And while doing all that side stuff, eventually from time to time a dungeon will pop. However, if you are impatient as a DPS, solo grinding in Tourgas is not a terrible option. Especially if you're a class with stealth, or if you just know your way around the corridors so you can speed run to the doorway boss as soon as possible to move on to the next floor all the way until the final boss. If you're a class with a bunch of broken powers and you have a really good luck for something that can one-shot enemies that lets you clear extremely quickly, that's also another good way of going about it as well. It's just a way for you to be able to spam it out. Another advantage of Tourgas would be the ability to get a lot of renown. While you can do dungeons once or twice or 3 times an hour, you'll be doing multiple runs of Tourgas in a single hour. Every single one of those runs has a chance to give you character renown, and right now you can get so much renown on a character, you'll probably be 80 renown before you hit max level. And I'm not even joking to you, my character is getting scarily close to that number, and they're not even level 60. But the most efficient method, in my opinion, would be spamming dungeons, especially if you have a dungeon group. If you have a group that knows these dungeons like the back of your hand, they could solve the puzzles for the Night Fae Tourgas, they could just group a bunch of enemies together and nuke them down efficiently. That'll be the fastest method still to this day. You can always do it as a tank, grinding out dungeons solo. As a tank, you'll be much needed in every single dungeon and you'll have almost instant queues. As a tank, you can control the flow of dungeons. You can decide how fast or slow you want them to go. You can decide which mobs get pulled and which ones don't get pulled. If you're lucky and your group has enough damage and healing in order to be able to do these big pulls, especially with so many abilities being uncapped in Shadowlands 9.1.5, then I think this is also a decent opportunity as well. So far, patch 9.1.5, questing and leveling does seem faster than the patch before. There isn't really this one feature that's like super giga speed in terms of leveling, but all the content seems like it is a little bit quicker and you do get through the levels faster than in previous patches. But the one biggest advantage of 9.1.5 questing, I would say, is the amount of renown you can get, plus also the different content you can get. Doing bonus objectives out in the open world finally feels a lot more satisfying to do than before. Tourgas leveling seems natural, as if we probably should have had this from the get-go. It does give you more stuff to do between world content, PvP, between dungeons, but now Tourgas, something you can spam solo whenever you want to, but also with the daily quests as well. But also the amount of renown you get while you're questing, that is the biggest advantage in 9.1.5. Out of all the things, you basically are doing some of the endgame grinds while you're grinding a character to the max level. So there's a good chance that by the time you hit max level, you'll be very, very close to finishing out whatever covenant you chose originally on any character that you choose to play, which allows you to bypass the grind completely, because while you're questing, you're investing into some of the different parts of the endgame grind from the get-go. That feeling of two birds with one stone, that's going to be the biggest change that feels the most different in 9.1.5, at least it has done for me so far. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts about this video in the comments below. Are there any characters you're going to be leveling in 9.1.5 or any that you've hit max level with this new patch already? What do you think about the questing systems and leveling systems so far? And what else do you think they could maybe add in the future? Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. Join our Discord link down in the description of every single video. And I'll see all of you guys in another video.